at the bottom, Jason, the San Antonio Spurs pre-draft were in the 14th spot.
Mm-hmm.
Stayed there, 14, with one of their picks.
Yeah.
The Kings were in the 13th spot. They stayed there.
Which means it's gone.
It's gone. Then the Kevin Huerter trade is complete. So we're giving up a first-round pick so Kevin Huerter can play in Chicago next year. The 11th pick, the Dallas Mavericks.
How'd that go?
Flying up to number 1, the Mavericks will presumptively take Cooper Flagg. The 10th spot, Portland Trailblazers, they move down a slot, and they pick 11. The Rockets move down a slot. They will pick 10.
But still, the fact that they've got a lottery pick is amazing.
Yeah, it is. The San Antonio Spurs were the other big winners of the night. They move up to number 2. The Pelicans went from 4th to 7th.
Ugh.
And the Jazz dropped from 1st to 5th. So you could argue that it was just about as bad a scenario for the Kings, not only losing their pick, but also when you look at where the Kings finished, they finished a game ahead of the Mavericks. They finished 6 games ahead of the San Antonio Spurs. Those teams are all going to be. Houston is going to move up. They're ahead of them. The Kings are once again getting passed from behind on the Western Conference rungs.
I think you could make the argument there's 7 teams that didn't make the playoffs in the West, right?
Yes.
The only one that I would say, there's only one that had a worse day than the Kings.
The Jazz.
No, not even them.
Okay. The
Jazz
Suns.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just because their pick was Houston's.
Yes.
Or turned into Houston's, and they don't have a pick. I mean, I know the Kings don't either, but I don't even. Maybe they're comparable. I don't even know if it's worse.
Well, I would see. But
I think they're in a worse position than the Kings are. I think, but not much.
Are they?
Yeah.
I think
also
they have no picks.
Go ahead, Chris.
With Dallas getting the pick, doesn't that prove that you shouldn't tank?
See, that's what's interesting is that you shouldn't tank yet. There's the argument, had we tanked, then you would have maybe gotten Dallas's position. But then there's the argument that the Jazz tanked or they just sucked and they got 5. Like I think,
but if Dallas tanked with Anthony Davis, because there's talk about Anthony Davis just shut it down. You're not doing anything this season. And that they pushed to get into the plan.
I want to go back to the Suns comment because I do think that's interesting. Because I was going through yesterday and I was like, God, is there a team? We always talk about like trading everything straight across. Coach, GM, everything but ownership. Coach, GM, down the line, roster, pick situation. So I'm like, how many teams in the Western Conference would trade positions with the Sacramento Kings? And I got to the Suns. And as it stands right now, the Suns were the number 1 team in payroll last year. The Suns finished 4 games behind the Kings. The Suns are almost devoid of draft picks.
Right.
But can you make an argument that the Suns, should they pull their heads out and do the right thing, are the Suns in a better position to rebuild than the Kings? Because right now they don't have any picks, but they have Kevin Durant and they have Devin Booker.
Okay.
And they have Bradley Beal. Now, I think Bradley Beal's a wash, but you're not – anything you get for Bradley Beal is going to be salary filler. I think Bradley Beal and Zach LaVine are basically the same thing.
I think the prize is Booker.
I 100% agree with you. The prize is Booker.
Okay, and now let's go to the owner's mentality. Do you think Ishbia is rebuilding?
That is the caveat, is that you have ownership like Matt Ishbia. You have ownership like Vivek Ranadive. You have certain owners in this league that have no clue how to run basketball operations. The fans here in Sacramento have overwhelmingly said over the last year that they are ready for a true blue rebuild. Like we're not stupid. We get it. It's not enjoyable. It's not a guarantee, but you'd rather rebuild with a direction and get a nice young team than whatever the hell they're doing right now, which is NBA purgatory. Like, this is where people get mad at me. There is zero, in my opinion, there is zero room for optimism next year.
Mm-hmm.
Like none. There's no room.
Yeah.
Not with where they're going to go. If I thought they were going to spend the offseason rebuilding, I'd be very optimistic. you're in for another year of garbage.
I know, and I think when that's asked to people, I think when you say, would you want to do the rebuild? Mm-hmm. I think in that phrasing, don't you feel like there's optimism? And I think that's where it's inherently wrong. Because I think if I told you, Dave, the Kings are going to rebuild, I think right away you go, good. That means they're going to tear it down, get a bunch of picks, and then they're going to be good in, let's pick a frame, 6 years.
Sure. Yeah.
That's pretty optimistic.
It is.
Because it's think
no guarantee.
None of it.
But where that argument frustrates me is that I can guarantee you this team isn't going to do anything.
That's totally fair.
I 100% give that there is no guarantee in a rebuild. Hell, we could pick Marvin Bagley again. We could blow all our picks like we had before. There could be injuries. God knows what. We don't get lottery luck. There's a ton of things that can go wrong with a rebuild. But if you go with the Sam Presti model, which is just everything is geared towards gathering either youth or draft assets. And by the way, and they're finding guys like Lou Dort. They're signing guys like Isaiah Hart. These are not glamorous moves.
Right.
These are Keon Ellis type moves. You get in that position. But my whole thing is this, like, not to use life or death, but let's use life or death. Jason, if I've got 2 roads in front of me and I know that if I go down the right fork, I'm going to die. Like, I'm going to die. There's no doubt. There's a big moat of fire, and I'm on a conveyor belt, and I'm going to get burnt to a crisp. I know this. On the left side, there's like some piranhas I got to walk through. There's an angry bear. Maybe there's a silverback gorilla, and I've only got one banana. I don't like there. It is certainly rife with peril and potential death. But I'm going to pick the left fork because I know there's at least a decent chance I make it.
Yeah.
There is, and I hate to say this to Kings fans, but just we have to live in reality. There's no chance this team is successful next year. It defines successful, making anything beyond the first round. And that is like the ultimate ceiling. And people are going to have to get injured on other teams. We're going to have tremendous luck. Like I need people to understand there's no chance. So if ownership knew what they were doing, which they have shown absolutely no indication that they do, they would be giving Scott Perry and Doug Christie, who I think would be a great tandem for this. They would give them the opportunity. Guys, move the assets. Let's go for it. Let's really do this. And by the way, it's a good time to do it because you've got teams up top getting older, going to fall back. And by the way, the Spurs are already ahead of you. OKC's already ahead of you. They're at the top. Like, you've got a window here. And by the way, it's what the Spurs just did. It's what Oklahoma City did before the Spurs. It's what Portland's kind of doing right now. It's what Detroit did. It's what Houston did. The next powers in the NBA. With Phoenix, they can trade Kevin Durant and get a nice haul for him. They will get salary back that's expiring. They can get, I think there's still 2 to 3 first rounders out there for Kevin Durant and or a young rotation player. Bradley Beal's going to be a dump. And they can get a haul for Devin Booker. They can cut that. That is about what, $130-140 million in salary they can take care of. And they can completely restock their picks and probably pick up a couple young players. I don't know that the Kings have the opportunity to do that.
Right.
Who, other than Keegan Murray, and by the way, and fans don't want to trade the ones that have value, but Domantas Sabonis is going to get you a little bit, a decent haul, but he ain't getting 4 first rounders or 3 first rounders.
Right.
So the fans that want the team to do an overhaul also don't want to trade players.
Yes. That's a very common thing. How many times have you heard, I'm cool with rebuilding. We need to make our core Sabonis, Keon Ellis, and Keegan Murray and Devin Carter. Everyone else you can trade. Well, yeah. Awesome. They have no value. So thanks. No, you're going to have to, it's going to hurt. You're going to have to trade Keegan Murray. You're going to have to trade Domantas Sabonis. You're going to have to hope that there's another GM.
And just reset it all.
You are gathering young players.
Like Keegan,
but Keegan's going to get you picks. So
Keegan could get you a player like Keegan.
Keegan could get you a player that's better than Keegan. You don't know, but I'd be fine with building around Keegan Murray, by the way. I would tremendously be fine with building around Keegan, but he's probably your second most valuable player when it comes to bringing in assets. You're hoping you find another GM that was as dumb as our organization to take on Zach. I mean, legitimately, like, good luck finding another GM that will take Zach LaVine. I hope so. But I think if you honestly send out a text message to all 28 other GMs and we're like, hey, we'll give you Zach LaVine for literally anything, like, just match the salaries, you might find a couple of takers, but it's going to be Zach LaVine is Bradley Beal North as far as value goes. So, yeah, that's where, when it comes to fee, like, would you trade straight across with Portland? I think that was the other one I was kind of going over.
I like what they have, but what do they have? Like, as a define where you go, I know with all these quote unquote young players, who's their guy? Have they figured that out?
Who's their, you mean like their go-to?
Yeah, like at some point they're going to turn that young, like that's the process. Like they'll go, yeah, it's not Simons, or it's not Sharp, or it's not Scoot. They're all okay. They're all good. I mean, it's nice.
Yes.
But at some point that needs to turn into, like, I would have been a little more aggressive at the deadline for them because there's a lot of pieces that teams would have wanted.
Yes.
And they didn't trade anybody. And I'm not saying they missed there, but I think it's a combination of a lot of good stuff, but I don't see a star right now.
No, I think Shaedon Sharp's a great piece. Tamani Kamara is a great piece. Denny Avdia I love, but no superstars.
Right.
Scoot Henderson's the guy they're hoping will be a superstar, but he has been incredibly underwhelming so far in his career. 13 points, 3 boards, 5 assists, but also just turned 21 in February.
Yeah.
You got to be patient with him. They have Donovan Clingan at center, coming off his rookie year, Joap Reith, little pieces like that, Matisse Thybulle,
Ayton,
Jeremy Grant.
Right.
I personally, I would trade straight across with them. I would take that group. I would take that group because I think you can rebuild or at least move around a little bit more. They have more movable pieces. Both have the same draft prospects now from here on out, basically, I think.
But a couple teams that were in the lottery that were behind the Kings.
Yeah.
Like the Spurs and the Mavs.
The Spurs. The Mavs are the obvious ones, but when you really start thinking about the Spurs.
Yeah.
We'll take a break. When we come back, hey, Giannis Antetokounmpo, is he coming west? We'll tell you how, why, and where next.
Visit Sactown